Welcome to the ATP project. You're with your host, Nicole and Steve, and I listened to your voice message and I think I've made a big mistake.
Oh.
Because I couldn't, it was breaking up a bit.
Yeah.
And you talked about today's podcast and you said we're talking about Las Vegas or something.
I did, Steve.
So I brought my guitar and I was going to do Viva Las Vegas.
Oh, right. Well,
is that it?
Well, close. But you know what? I feel like talking about Las Vegas would probably be kind of, we could do some sordid stories. But no, we're not talking about Las Vegas. This is what happens
Presley.
in Vegas stays in Vegas. Isn't that the name?
Yep, there was a movie.
Yeah.
And we want to talk about Elvis Presley, you know, Viva Las Vegas.
We could, well, yeah. We've got
is that what we're talking about today?
No, but it's close. We're talking about the vagus nerve, Steve.
The vagus nerve?
Yeah, vagus nerve.
The hell's the vagus nerve?
So we're going to tell everybody what the vagus nerve is and what it does and how it can impact our health for the positive and the negative and lots of really cool stuff about the vagus nerve.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really cool, you know, everyone thinks a nerve is this little tiny thing. This is a whopper.
This is a big one.
This is a whopper.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, because vagus is a Latin term, which means wandering.
Yeah.
So they used to have a vagus womb for women's hysteria. And it was the wandering womb. Do you remember that one in the old 2,000 years ago? No?
No, I was only just an infant then, Steve.
Well, yeah, I was around and I used to talk to Socrates and Hippocrates and all the other Ocrates. And the wandering womb was the vagus womb, which was the womb would wander in women.
Yes.
And that would cause hysteria in women.
Where would it wander to?
Everywhere. It goes around the body.
And did it?
Yeah, it would move. And if it moved, this was the cause of women's hysteria. I'm getting emails about this already 1 minute in. But that's what they thought. And the reason why they thought that is because, you know, they couldn't ultrasound wombs back then. But when a woman would die and they'd do a autopsy, the womb would shift because the muscles would relax and it would move.
Right.
So they went, this thing moves around. Isn't that amazing? Because you've got to remember, it's got room to grow.
Yes,
you know, it grows.
Yeah.
I know. Only joke I know about wombs is you can get. It's not. No. It's not.
I have a womb one, but I can't tell it.
I think I can say this one.
Okay,
if you get,
we can always edit it.
Yes. Okay. So get ready with the finger on the button. No, it's not that bad. This one. It's just like you can get a womb replacement these days. They're made out of glass. It's called a womb with a view.
Steve.
See, it's a bad joke, but it's not a rude one.
It did make me laugh this time. So usually I just roll my eyes. So it must have been better than the normal ones.
So the reason why they call this a wandering nerve is because when you look at an anatomy of a womb, you got a picture there. It starts from sort of around the head there, and it goes all throughout the body, from uteruses to bowels to everything, and it's like lungs and hearts and all this crap.
Yeah.
All this crap. And so it's an amazing nerve. But do you want to give us a bit of an insight into what it does?
Yeah. So it is the 10th cranial nerve.
Uh-huh.
And there are actually two branches to the nerve. So people think it's one branch, but it actually splits off and goes down either side of the neck. And it innervates most of the organs in our body. So, you know, our lungs, our heart, our kidneys, our pancreas, our liver, our small intestine, our uterus, everything. And that basically sends, it's like a bidirectional pathway where it sends signals back and forth from the brain, from the organs to the brain. So basically tells the brain what's going on in the body, and then allows the body to sort of turn off functions or turn on functions depending on what's actually going on. So it's super important. It's part of the autonomic nervous system. Yep. So we have two arms. So we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Yep. So it's the primary part of the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah.
And the sympathetic nervous system occurs when you're stressed.
That's right.
So think of it like a seesaw. When one's up, the other's down.
Yes.
So what we find in society, and we just talked about this earlier about your clients, and would you safe to say that 80% have excessive stress?
Yes, I would
maybe
say.
90, but
maybe 90.
Probably 80 to 90. You know, and with this excessive stress, it means the vagus nerve is compromised in some way.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting. Now, the vagus nerve, as you said, it's bidirectional.
Bidirectional, yeah. So it's also efferent and afferent.
Yeah, that's the technical terms.
Yeah, so it's 80% afferent, which means that
goes to the brain.
Goes to the brain.
Wow.
So more messages are coming from the body to the brain than the brain to the body. So 20% efferent messages from the brain and 80% afferent. So that just goes to show that the brain isn't controlling everything. The body is telling the brain a lot of what's going on. So through this vagus nerve. So it's super interesting. So it does, as we said, it does a lot of things, and it also has a lot of functions in the face as well. So swallowing, our throat, our eyes.
Gag reflex.
Gag reflex. Our ability to recognise facial expressions and emotions in other people. There's also vagus nerve, and we can talk a little bit about how that comes into play with polyvagal theory.
You're going to talk about polyvagal theory later. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on polyvagal theory, let me say, but we've done a bit of research on it. It's quite interesting.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, interesting add-on. But yeah, things like vomiting. So say you eat something that you shouldn't eat, so say a mushroom, and it turns out to be poisonous or something, and you need to vomit it out.
Yeah.
It's the vagus nerve that then is getting the message from the gut to get rid of this because it's a toxin.
Yeah.
So it activates that gag reflex and that vomiting and will get you to vomit it out. So that's really interesting. So people that have issues swallowing, that's the vagus nerve as well.
Amazing.
So yeah, really
so if you go out on a Saturday night and drink too much, your vagus nerve becomes stimulated. And
your vagus nerve goes, this is a bit toxic.
Isn't that funny?
Now.
You think mushrooms, I think, people on the cans.
Well, I was just thinking, because I don't drink, so I was just thinking of something toxic, like a poisonous mushroom. But yeah, look, alcohol is toxic in high doses, and that's a lot of the reason
we
why
are in Australia. We got to go with the crowd, and in most Australians. So very interesting. And I'm going to talk about things like autism later. That's to do with the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
And all these, so there's conditions associated with the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is a really interesting innovation in the body. It's not just, don't just think of it as one nerve. It's got branches going everywhere.
It's a whole system in itself, essentially. It's amazing. I mean, we didn't have a picture, but
you've got a picture there of the innovation of that.
We can do that, Matt. Can hold that up, where it innovates all the different things. But I've got this really cool picture here too. It's in black and white, but this is probably the bottom bit. But yeah, just the way that it all the nerves,
it's everywhere,
all the body, it's
everywhere.
just. I mean, I actually went. This is an aside, but I don't know if anyone else went and saw it that lived in Melbourne, but I went and saw an exhibition years ago called Body?
Yes.
Yeah, did you go?
I went to one, and you're going to think I'm joking, but when I was in Las Vegas for a medical conference, they talked about this thing, and there was one in Vegas.
Oh, there you go.
And it had bits of the body.
Yeah, it's amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
People might be squirmish, maybe don't listen, but it had bodies cut up and open. It was fascinating, and it wasn't gory. It was fascinating, but they had the nervous system, and it was a massive just tentacles all laid out, and it took up a whole table.
Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible. Yeah,
it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember the vagus nerve was not looked on kindly many years ago.
No.
They had a few problems with it. In the 1940s, you remember the 1940s?
Well, I don't remember, but you would, Steve.
But this was a real boom time for medicine.
Yes.
It's when the widespread of antibiotics and all these new things were coming in, and they discovered, they thought that ulcers in the stomach were caused by excessive acid secretions.
Yes.
And guess which nerve innovates gastric secretions?
Let me think. Vagus nerve?
That's right. So what they did back then was they'd cut the vagus nerve. Stops the acid production, stops the ulcer.
Stops a lot of other things too.
Don't worry about the other side of things, but the very first published study on this was 1922, where they did what they called a vagotomy, and it was published. And the paper today is published in the American Journal of Surgery, where I'm bringing this from. It says a relic or still relevant, a narrowing role for vagotomy in the treatment of peptic ulcer disease. Narrowing role.
Wow.
Like it's still a role, I think, but they basically conclude by saying, don't do it, because nowadays you've got the PPI, proton pump inhibitors, antacids, which stop acid production anyway. So without cutting nerves, you can do that if you want to do that, which I'm not a fan of. And they found Helicobacter pylori being associated with peptic ulcers. But got about 1940, didn't know about helicopters or Helicobacter anything. So they just went snip to this nerve, and it used to help.
Yeah.
Because it just stops acid production. Yeah, they suffer and whatever. But got to remember, medicine is and this is a larger thing, and it's a bit big, but when they say the science is settled and, listen to the experts. The experts used to recommend this all the time.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And in the 60s, they used to recommend transorbital lobotomies.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
So that's an ice pick up into the brain and severing the frontal cortex. Yeah. We squirm at that, but the experts back then said that was the way to treat a child that was misbehaving.
Yeah. Well, glad medicine's come a long way since then.
Well, it has, but it's lessons that we don't believe.
Yeah.
Science is always questioning in that.
Yes.
So the vagus nerve, there's still a lot we don't know about it, but there's a lot we do know about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got some nice information that talked about vagus nerve and how the gut, and this is where we love the gut, don't we? And we have to bring up the gut because, as you said, there's afferent nerves. In other words, nerves going from the gut to the brain.
Yeah.
And we used to call it gut-brain connection, we still do.
Yes.
But there's a massive axis there. Now, do you want to just talk about gut health and how important it is for systemic health?
So when we've talked about stress and gut health so many times, and how stress impacts our ability to produce acids and enzymes, and which then, can lead on to dysbiosis if it's more chronic. And this is the reason why. So stress will shut down vagus nerve stimulation or activity. So then you're losing that messenger, that ability for that nerve to then switch on, because it is responsible for switching on the acids and the enzymes and the messages that switch them on. So if you're stressed and it's not working, then you're not going to have those secretions, and then you're going to can end up with dysbiosis, and that leads on to different things. So the vagus nerve, it's always monitoring the microbiome. So it's not actually sitting in the microbiome; it sits around, in the barriers, but it's getting the messages from our microbes, and we've talked about that in the past. They will give off messages, and these messages are then relayed back up to the brain. So that whole neurotransmitters, 90% of them are produced in the gut. So they're produced in the gut, and then the messenger is sent up to the brain. So the little bacteria doesn't climb up the nerve, but the message is sent up and down saying, hey, we need to produce more dopamine, or we need to produce more serotonin, and that type of thing. So it's always sort of monitoring what's going on in the microbiome. And there's a lot of research now showing that it can, depending on what's going on in the gut, if there's a pathogen, it can change the microbiome so that it can help to neutralise the pathogen. Yeah. So it's that intelligent.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And this is mainly from a paper that I've got here, and it was published. If you want to look further up about this, it's called The Vagus Nerve at the Interface of the Microbiotica Gut-Brain Axis. So that's the paper that we're talking about. Frontiers in Neuroscience. And all of a sudden, we're blurring the lines between what's a brain condition and what's a gut condition, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because they're linked.
Yes.
It's like they're both. And there is some evidence that we used to think was a brain condition that now we know as being a gut condition, or we associate it. And probably the most famous one that I've got papers on today, and there's many of them, depression, anxiety and all that, and we'll talk about them. But we did find some papers on autism and the link between gut and your brain. So there's a few papers here. And what we know firstly, and there's a paper published, this was published in Nature in 2023, and it talks about, and the paper's titled, just a bit referencing, multi-level analysis of the gut-brain axis shows autism spectrum disorder associated with microbial profiles. Long word, but what it means is that autism is heavily associated with your gut microbiome. Yeah. So isn't that very interesting that all of a sudden we're starting to look at these diseases as something as being very different?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
the microbiome, like we've talked about a lot for all different things.
Definitely. So I've actually got a little list here of other conditions that can be related to. So when we're going to refer to low vagal tone.
Yep.
So that basically means that the vagus nerve isn't working as effectively as it should be.
Yeah.
It's not being stimulated the way that it should be and switched on. So some of the other conditions that have been linked to low vagal tone is chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, which sort of go together, depression, anxiety.
Absolutely.
Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Yep.
Heart disease, diabetes, migraines, cluster headaches, PTSD, autoimmune conditions, obesity, cancer, ADHD, chronic inflammatory states.
Wow.
IBD, IBS, SIBO, leaky gut.
All the gut stuff.
Asthma.
Incredible, isn't it?
A lot of things, yeah.
So which ones aren't?
Well, that's it. That's probably more we should list at that. But it's interesting that there's been a lot of research. We've got a paper on it somewhere amongst all these other papers.
We've got this one's a good one.
Yeah, where they've linked it to IBS and inflammatory bowel disease, vagal nerve dysregulation.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, really, really is incredible. And so I guess the ultimate experiment would be okay, let's take a neurological disease, and we'll pick on autism, and let's do a hypothetical scenario. Let's wipe out the gut microbiome in these kids and replace them with healthy microbiome from a healthy child.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens?
The autism went down.
The autism pretty much resolved.
Okay.
Yeah. And everyone's sitting there going, what are you talking about? Well, this is a paper published, The Long-Term Benefits of Microbiotica Transfer Therapy in Autism Symptoms and Gut Microbiotica. And what they did was they gave these individuals, and I'm going to use the term that may be a swear word, but it's called crapsules, where they give them healthy microbiome. And I want to show you this, and this is what blows me away. Look what happened to the symptoms of autism from being way up here. And I know people can't see this graph, but it just after what was that say? 10 weeks of treatment, bang, they dropped almost to zero. Yeah, so it's quite remarkable.
That's crazy, isn't it?
So it's crazy.
It is, but it's also we understand it.
Yeah. And this is a CARS, what they call a CARS, which is a measure of autism in the spectrum disorders. And they start at really high, bad autism. And over the 2 years, they drop down to borderline non-existent autism. Isn't that remarkable?
It is remarkable.
Yeah. So I mean, this vagus nerve thing that talks from your gut to your head, mostly 80%.
Yeah.
Your gut really drives how healthy your brain is.
So it's incredible how strong it is actually.
I mean, there's some great data, but how do you know if your vagal tone or your vagal messages are low? Is there any way you can, what are some of the symptoms of that?
Yeah. So some of the things that you may experience, so difficulty speaking or loss of voice, and that sounds strange, but I have a theory here as well.
Sounds like me on a
we
podcast.
don't have research paper. We don't, like yesterday. Yes. We don't have research papers on this, but children that have issues with speech, could it well be that there's something wrong, the vagal tone is quite low.
A lot of autistic children can't speak.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And I'm noticing there's so many more speech therapists out there now. So this must be quite a proliferative problem. Yeah, with speech issues. Case in point.
Yeah, case in point. But what I'd like to know is, are there any speech therapists that are addressing the vagus nerve?
Yeah, actually we didn't look into that.
Or microbiome.
Yeah, if anyone is one of those, then...
Do they care about that, or do they give them just... I don't know.
I don't know either.
They should, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know.
What else?
Hoarse or wheezy voice.
Yep.
Because obviously it controls throat and voice, so those sort of issues. Trouble drinking liquids or trouble drinking or swallowing. And this is really interesting because I've actually had this happen to me, trouble swallowing. So back many years ago, and I had a lot of stress and that sort of thing, times to come up. And the more you try, and it felt very sort of, psychosomatic type thing. But, and I've got a person in my family, they do listen to this, but that happened to them when they were young as well. They couldn't, for the whole night, they couldn't swallow. So they had to keep spitting up spit. I know it sounds terrible. Wow. They actually couldn't swallow. And I think that may be something to do with, the stress response and then that vagal thing. So that can be a problem, and drinking liquids and things can be difficult if you have low vagal tone for some people as well.
Okay.
So another one is loss of gag reflex.
Yep.
Abnormal heart rate.
Yep.
Or blood pressure. So there's that stress response. You can see that.
We had a staff member with an abnormal heart rate today, didn't we?
We did. Yes, we did. They had a bit too much of a product.
Triple dosed
They overstimulated themselves.
They took 2 heap scoops when you're supposed to have 1 level one.
Yes.
That'll learn him.
Yes, and then that'll learn him. He won't do that again.
Probably will, actually.
Decreased stomach acid and digestive enzymes, which we explained that. Abdominal bloating or pain, which can go along with that IBS type picture, which we said, and there is a connection there with the vagus nerve as well. Bowel transit time, so either slow or fast as well. So that's that stimulation or lack of. Gastroparesis.
So that's vagal nerve damage.
Yeah. So there's some of the symptoms that can go along with low vagal tone.
It's quite amazing because that tone, remember, that low vagal tone, there are things or external treatments for boosting the vagal nerve.
Yeah.
And they've been used to, if people have poor gut health or something like that, where there's no nerve afferent, because 80% is afferent going back to the brain. So what medicine are doing now is they're stimulating the vagus nerve by inserting, say, electrodes in the ear.
Yeah.
And that stimulates the vagal nerve. And there's been multiple studies on that. So on autism, they've done many studies on that. So there was, if you want to look this up, Frontiers in Neuroscience, transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation, a promising method for treatment of autism spectrum disorder. So what they found is that if you stimulate the vagus nerve, because remember, it's supposed to come from the gut microbiome, and this is controversial. Let's say it out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just reading the paper.
This is just a study.
I didn't write the paper, so don't say there's no evidence because I'm holding it in my hand. And I've read the title out. And so they're doing that, and it's treating autism quite effectively.
Well, I mean, that gut-brain axis, you can't ignore that is there. You can't ignore it. And, I've seen and had I don't treat children, but I've had peers that do, treat children with behavioural issues and things and treat their gut, and their behavioural issues go. So, there is, and we're not saying that this is the complete reason why, but it could be something to look into further.
We can't ignore it, can we?
No.
These big fat nerves going from the gut to the brain, and it's like, what do we do? Oh, no, it's definitely not that thing.
Yeah.
And when we know that if you artificially stimulate it, in medicine, studies show that it does help with brain conditions.
Yeah.
It helps with depression. It helps with all sorts of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, it's a really good thing. Now we're going to give you natural ways to stimulate the nerve, which is good, but we'll do that later when we've got to keep people hanging.
That's right. So, it's really interesting. And I do a lot of gut testing in clinic, and most of the time you get something back in the test, but sometimes you don't. Everything looks fine, looks great and balanced, and it doesn't match with their symptoms. Mm-hmm. So that's when you'd be doing something about looking at vagal tone. Is that having an impact? So, say somebody's getting bloating when they're eating a certain food, but their gut microbiome looks fine. Is that then the vagus nerve sending a signal? Or not sending a signal because they're highly stressed. Yep. So that's creating a lot of those sensitivities. So that's a really interesting thing to look further into that.
Well, I was telling you guys of a time in my life when I was running my own business where I was super, super, duper stressed. And my appetite was terrible. Yeah. It was either really high or really low, or I didn't feel like eating, or I felt like eating shit, and it was just a terrible time in my life. And I stuck to my guns. I was a naturopath at that stage, so I didn't want to eat badly. But the stress, it really makes life so much harder for you when you're trying to be healthy and that sort of thing. Yeah. And it's incredibly screws up your brain. There's this vagus nerve and all this thing. And, there's many studies published on psychosocial things in the gut-brain axis. And there's one here. And this, just for people to reference, it's the title of it is quite interesting. It says the significance of the vagus nerve function in terms of pathogenesis of psychosocial disorders. So that's a review paper where they talk about all the different disorders that are associated with the vagus nerve and your brain. And it's like, it goes depression, anxiety, and all these sorts of diseases. And they talk about the neurotransmitters involved, acetylcholine. So there's real changes in the brain from this. So it's absolutely remarkable. So it is a controversial topic, and good on it for being controversial, because science should be controversial. Yeah, it should be challenging your ideas. Science is never settled.
No.
So when someone says there's no evidence of, I always get a bit nervous.
Yes.
It's like, you mean no evidence? All the evidence?
Yeah.
So when people rightly question science, you're very happy to do that. But always have an open mind. Yeah. Don't go, oh, there's a study, I'm going to ignore that. Yeah. Exactly. That's at your own peril.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's very interesting. But there's also even physiological diseases where the vagus nerve plays up in, like the relationship, another study, the relationship between the vagus nerve, gut microbiota, and obesity and diabetes.
Yes, diabetes, yep.
I mean, how remarkable is that? I mean, it's really quite incredible that and of course the studies go on to say the gut microbiome, the vagus nerve may provide a potential pathway through which gut microbiomes influence host feeding behaviour and metabolic control of psychological and pathological conditions. And it certainly happened to me. And everyone has stress, eaten or not eaten because they're stressed. Yes. It's one or the other. Yeah. It doesn't, and you don't binge on broccoli.
No, you don't.
You eat badly.
Yeah.
And they even call this sugary food comfort food.
Yeah, that's it.
There's so many diseases are associated with the gut. Can I tell you when this was first discussed?
Yes.
About 2,000 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
2,000 years ago.
There was a dude around back then.
Oh, he's our favourite dude.
He's our favourite dude.
Yeah.
And he said, and I'll quote, that all diseases begin in the gut. Yeah. All diseases. And this is a paper published in the Journal of Neurology. Okay, a big paper. And I love the picture on the front. And I know I'm going to hold this up to the camera for those who are watching at home, but there's a picture there of a brain that's made of microbes.
Yes.
Don't you like that?
Yeah, I love
That's really clever.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Because the microbes protect what's going in your brain. Yeah. And the title of the paper is, of course, All Disease Begins in the Gut, quotes, was Hippocrates right? And they go on to say pretty much yes, but except for a few. Because not all diseases start in the gut.
No.
You can get gangrene.
That's right.
Or something,
yes.
Or broken leg don't to start in the gut. But pretty much most of them do. And this is where I'm going to have a little bit of I won't call it a dig, but medicine largely ignores the microbiome.
They do largely, yeah. Which is, and as I was just saying before, that there was something on mainstream TV, mainstream medicine that actually acknowledged the gut-brain connection. So it's starting to filter into mainstream medicine that this is actually a thing.
Yeah.
There is scientific evidence of this.
But let's just say, hypothetically, that only 50% start in the gut. And it's more disease than that. When we talk about diabetes, you talk about all these diseases, it's pretty much all of them. But let's just say 50%. 50% of treatments should be about the gut microbiome, shouldn't they?
Yeah,
if it starts in the gut.
Yes.
And I know there are people, you got to meet people where they're at, and let's say they don't want to treat the root cause. Most people do, but some people don't, and we've got to acknowledge that. And if you're getting migraines for whatever reason, you just want to shut them down, that's fine. And people take Panadols and Nurophens and Triptans and opioids all just to get rid of the pain and ignore the cause. But a lot of us want to know the cause of it.
Yeah.
And if 50% of diseases originate in the gut, now I'm being conservative, then we've got to really talk about the gut microbiome and the vagus nerve that innervates from the gut to the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
They go on to say here that we're only 50% human, and it's a title.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this. 50%. It's a title in this paper. We're 50% human.
And 50% microbes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because about half the genes and half the cells are in your gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that remarkable? You're 50% human.
Yeah, it is amazing.
And it's funny how they first looked into this. They were doing trials on mice, which there's many trials done on mice about the microbiome, and they give them all sorts of diseases from because obviously ethics, you can't give it to children. They did for some of them, but they gave them human. But with mouse, you can go nuts. So what they did was they've caused even things like jet lag in mice.
Oh, really?
Because we've given them jet lag. No, they just kept them awake at different times, and it caused jet lag. And they transferred those microbes to a normal germ-free mouse, and they gave the mouse jet lag.
Yeah.
So jet lag is a contagious disease. You're thinking what I'm thinking. It's microbiome. Microbiome is set up by your environment. As a child, all the exposures you've had in life.
Yeah.
So you can actually give someone a disease just by transplanting microbiome.
Well, I mean, a lot of times you see in families, you see diseases run through the family.
Yeah.
Is that a contributing factor in the microbe as well? So that's transferring through the family. I mean, we know, I was just talking to a staff member here, Helicobacter, if someone has Helicobacter pylori, then generally the whole family's got it.
It's infectious.
Very infectious. So why then could microbes not be having the same effect?
Of course they could be.
Yeah.
Because, of course, usually in a family, you usually eat the same sorts of foods.
Yeah.
We all sit down at the dinner table and you eat, in the old days, and you meat and 3 veg, whatever. And so that changes the microbiome as well. Everything you do, your surfaces and everything are all in the same house. So, this is where we start to blur the lines between a genetic disease and a microbe disease. And it's all via the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible? Because is it a genetic disease? It kind of is, because the genes are in your microbes.
That's right.
But it's not a gene in your body.
Yeah, exactly.
So isn't that sort of like blows your mind when you think of it that way?
Your mind. Yeah.
So good old Hippocrates was fairly good on this one. We love him.
Yeah. So, I mean, we bang on about stress management. We always bang on about stress management. And this is just proving how important it is, because if you're not, managing stress, then you're switching off vagus nerve function.
Yep.
And then that's when everything can start to go sideways. So, it's super important to manage your stress.
Super. And stress is usually caused by something that we struggle to control. Like there's good stress and there's bad stresses. We've got to, like I went for a run this morning, it was stinking hot.
Yeah.
That was stressful.
Yes.
But it was a short-term stress.
Yep.
And it's good for me.
Very good for you, yes.
So the bad stress is when you get home and worry about the bills or like me, I'm married, so.
Well, there's the stress right there.
She's going to be listening to this. So
I think she's the one that should be more stressed than you.
Yeah. I think she's right.
Poor
Beck, yeah. I mean, you've got a stress at the moment. You've got a dog that keeps attacking you.
I do have a dog. I'm hiding my arms, and we did mention this last time. I've got scratches all over me. Looks like I've been eaten by a tiger.
It looks
my little
vicious
puppy.
Dogs.
Yes.
It's a German Shepherd. They're vicious.
Oh, they're not vicious. Anyone that has German Shepherds out there, write in and say they're not vicious. They have this particular persona because they're used as police dogs and security dogs and things, but they're big babies.
The big babies?
But he's a little big baby, but he's only 9 weeks old.
You know when you call the canine unit the police, guess what turns up? A shepherd.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But then at the other side of the coin, they use them as guide dogs. My mum.
Do they?
Here's a little tidbit for you. Mum will love this. She listens to the podcast.
Oh.
Mum had the first German Shepherd guide dog in Australia ever.
Really?
Yep.
And what happened to it? Did it attack someone and they had to get rid of it? Or?
No, but interestingly, we've gone completely off topic again. But,
okay.
But he was a big dog, a big German Shepherd, and he was a beautiful dog. But she didn't want to have a Labrador, and she used to have a lot to do with breeding shepherds when we were young, for the police force and that sort of thing. So she had a shepherd, and she decided to get him trained as a guide dog.
Really?
And so he was the first one ever in Australia, and there's still not many. But she used to walk down the street and everyone would sort of part.
Yes.
He wasn't aggressive at all, but everyone would stay out of her way. Yeah. And then as it went along, and she had to get a Labrador when he retired, no one parted ways. She had to find a way through the traffic. But no, they're actually they're not aggressive dogs at all. They're actually big babies.
And you've got the scars to show.
So he's just teething. That's all. He's just teething. So that's why I'm hiding my arms a bit. So I'm not been doing anything weird or, got leprosy or anything.
No, it doesn't look so measly today. It's good.
Dog scratches.
I've got another great paper that's done by Dexter. That's his name.
Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter Shernley.
That's a cool name.
The cameraman, Matt, and I love Dexter, the show.
I used to watch Dexter as
Isn't
well.
it good?
Yeah. I don't think it's on anymore, is it?
No. Or did it come?
It came back.
Did it?
It came back for one season.
Oh.
It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was a very good show.
So Dexter is...
we won't say what he is.
I don't know.
Let's move on from that.
we can't Google it.
Yeah,
there you
Google
go.
it.
We can't really say what he used to do.
No.
It's not very good. But this is a great paper. It's called The Gut Microbiome, Unleashing the Doctor Within.
Oh, yeah, I love this. That's a great heading.
I just love it. And it opens up with wisdom from the past. Hippocrates said, everyone has a doctor in him or her. We just have to help it do its work. The natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well. Our food should be our medicine should be our food. And this is absolutely remarkably. And he said in this paper, again, all disease start from the gut, and it's like, it's not all, but most of them. And so this is what we love as natural therapists. And it's funny because doctors take the Hippocratic Oath.
That's right, yeah.
Which is about this guy, Hippocrates, and as Homer Simpson said, the hippopotamus oath. I keep thinking,
hippopotamus oath,
yeah, it's quite funny. But we can heal ourselves by changing our gut microbiome. Yeah. And the way we do that, exercise improves the gut microbiome. Yep. Mm-hmm. And you've talked a lot about stress. And stress stuffs up your microbiome.
Completely.
And it's the cause too.
Yeah.
Because, as you know from the vagus nerve, people with low vagus nerve innervation have terrible mental health.
It's shocking to mental health.
Really?
And gut issues.
Gut issues.
Obviously, that connection, it's shutting down those messengers that tell us, okay, cool, get the gut ready for digesting food, that sort of thing. So, and, move your stool through your bowel or don't move it or, that sort of thing. So, and the other thing which we didn't do any research on, but I wonder if there's a connection there. So people that have adhesions, scar adhesions internally, so, that have had surgeries and things like that, I know that definitely a lot of times they're more prone to things like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and things like that because of the adhesions. But could that also be impacting the vagus nerve if it's wrapping around and getting adhesions, scar adhesions?
I bet it would be.
Yeah. So people that have had
I should have looked at that before I bloody came.
I know, I just thought of it
bet you $1 million there is. I bet you $1 million it does.
A lot of people that have had surgeries go on to have other issues, particularly, abdominal surgeries. A lot of times I see clients that have had abdominal surgeries that have a lot of digestive issues and tried a lot of things, and it could be adhesions. So
I've got a family member that has severe adhesions and has mental health problems.
There you go.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
You said that. Yeah. And I didn't prompt you to say that.
No.
So, it's really interesting that you said that. That is really, we should have looked that up.
We should have looked that up.
But there is this other paper here that you love because it's got the beautiful colour pictures in the Journal of Inflammation Research, which I love.
Oh, that's good.
And it really does talk a lot about the vagus nerve. And the paper's titled Vagus Nerve and Underlying Impact on the Gut Microbiome Brain Axis in Behaviour and Neurodegenerative Diseases. So you mentioned a couple before, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's.
Yep.
And this is an amazing paper that talks about how inflammation drives all of this, and it's from the bad gut microbiome.
Yes.
And so what happens is the body responds, and I'll hold up the thing to the camera for those people who are looking, but you can see it's a beautiful colour diagram there, and you can see what happens. You get inflammation in the brain. Guess what the brain does?
Yeah.
Releases stress hormones, shock horror, and it leads to cortisol, which breaks down the gut barrier as well, screws up your gut again, so you have this terrible feedback loop, which is, and people become more stressed. Cortisol suppresses serotonin.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've got a chronic stress going on in your gut, like adhesions or anything else that's going on there, bad or whatever, you've got bad microbiome, bad diet, bad whatever, you're going to have stinking thinking, as they call it.
Stinking thinking, I love that.
Well, there's a 90s term because we knew that people that had bad mental health had bad bowels.
Yes.
And we didn't know this link back then when I was studying naturopathy, and we just call it stinking thinking.
Yeah.
Because you had stinking bowels and bad thinking.
Yeah.
And now we've got the papers for it, but back then it's like the old sort of naturopathic principles that were all, not all, but a lot of them were correct. They didn't know how correct they were. We didn't know how or why this worked or whatever. But we used to call things tonics, and we didn't know how it worked, but it just helped that because it was used for centuries for that.
Yeah.
And now we've got the mechanisms in place. But this is a really interesting paper that talks about how the neurotransmitters are dramatically dysregulated, and you get this massive, and it's all by, if you remember that middle thing in the middle there, the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if your vagus nerve is not getting the right information from your bowels, or your bowels not supplying the right information, you're going to have stress.
That's right.
For your entire life. And those diseases you read out before, which a lot of them were mental health.
Yeah.
So this is vitally important, getting the whole sort of, real problems. And going on to this paper, there's another coloured diagram there, which talks about the vagus nerve and what it does. And it leads to, it innervates different parts of the brain. So let's say the vagus nerve innervates your locus coeruleus, which is a part of the brain, and that leads to depression.
Yep.
If it leads to the medial septum, that innervates the hippocampus, it leads to memory processes. So people are absent-minded and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's is the thing.
Yep.
And then you've got the parabrachial nucleus. If it innervates that, you get avoidance behaviour and reward-related behaviours. So people who become addicted to things, even though they're doing the wrong things.
Yes.
The classic one is gambling.
Yes.
You lose money on gambling and you persist with it.
Yeah.
And people go, what are you thinking? And then you've got this avoidance behaviour, which are people who just recluse in themselves and want to get away from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really interesting stuff. And then you've got the paraventricular nucleus, and that leads to stress responses and risk reward. So you start to get stressed and you get the sugary addictions.
Yeah.
So people go, and we've joked about it in the office, but we've talked about in the office how people, you say you have to cut back on all your junk food. Oh, but I can't. And these are adults saying.
Yeah.
And the person I'm thinking about, and we talked. But this is very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you look at them and go, but you've got to. Everything's pointing to that.
Yeah.
And so you've got this. It's really interesting.
It is really interesting. Yeah. So polyvagal theory.
Let's talk about that, because I'd never heard of that.
No, I have. This is a new one for me too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in clinic, I will see clients that struggle to improve no matter what we do, right?
Yep.
So I started looking into limbic retraining.
Right, limbic system in your brain.
Limbic system in the brain. So this is kind of, I guess, along those lines. But the polyvagal theory, and look, this isn't scientifically backed as such, but they are starting to use a lot in counselling and that type of thing. But it was developed by a man named Dr. Stephen Porges. I hope I've said that right, Porges. So he basically explains a nervous system response to stress and danger. A three-part hierarchical system, Steve. So ventral vagal activation, relaxation and social engagement, sympathetic activation, which is fight or flight, and dorsal vagal activation, which is immobilization or freeze. So when your parasympathetic is engaged, you have connection, you're grounded, you're compassionate, mindfulness, that type of thing. Sympathetic nervous system engagement is panic, fear, worry, run, anger, frustration, irritation, agitation, and then shut down. So this is the unmyelinated vagus parasympathetic nervous system, which is numb, depressed, hopeless, and disassociation. Yes. Yeah.
Geez, I know people in all those categories.
I know, but then that can be like sort of a
continuum. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, but some people get stuck in that shutdown phase.
They just are oblivious to the world. Whatever happens, it's out of my control. Yeah. It's like, they just they've got all these problems going on in their life and they're shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see that, it's funny, where I say a lot, and Matt will know this, you see that a lot in kitchen nightmares. Gordon Ramsay shows.
Oh, yes.
Where they go in to fix someone and there's someone who's there who's like going through the motions, they're going broke, there's nothing going well.
Yeah.
And they're just shut down to all the problems around them.
Yeah.
And you see that and he goes in there and wakes them up basically and yells at them and gets the thing and they come alive again.
Yeah.
And and there's people around who are just in like you see it in relationships. Yeah. Where there are people that's like, aren't you going to do something? It is what it is. And, nothing. And they do nothing. And they're absent.
They're completely absent, yeah. So, I mean, this goes on to, with all that sort of thing. So, talks about it in the freezing state.
Yep.
So, it's a form of self-preservation.
Yep.
So, your body's just like, I'm just going to shut down to the whole thing. So, someone who passes out under extreme stress, I've never known anyone to do that, but you've seen it on TV. People that pass out from stress.
I'm just trying to think about if I can say this or not, but my wife passed out with stress. She had a corticosteroid shot in the shoulder and passed out.
Did she?
Yeah, probably allowed to say that, can't I?
Oh, there you go. That's the unmyelinated vagus section of the parasympathetic nervous system.
There you go.
Completely shut down. So somebody freezes on stage, or they've got it, they're up in front of people and they freeze, or you can't talk. So then our nervous system is perceiving danger when there isn't any real threat. So you're kind of stuck. And they say a lot of it is due to early life exposure to stress or trauma.
Yep.
And it's interesting, and that's why I'm starting to look into limbic system retraining and even the polyvagal theory now. I'm starting to look into that a lot more.
Wow.
For people who aren't getting better, they've had a trauma earlier in their lives and they're still living in that trauma. So their nervous system, maybe their vagus nerve is stuck in that as well, and they're living that trauma. And as long as they're in that, they're never going to get better.
No.
So it's a matter of working on that vagus nerve and increasing vagal tone and sort of getting you out of that stuck, shut down phase so that your body can then repair.
It's a great segue into how do we actually improve the vagus nerve.
Improve the vagus nerve. So what can we do?
Oh, my goodness. Well, of course, there's electrical stimulation in the ear.
Yeah, there is electrical stimulation.
But let's say you don't want to get a shock in the earlobe.
No.
Well, it's not the earlobe, it's the inner part of the ear.
Because it innervates into the inside of the ear as well. So.
You're not going to like some of these.
No.
The first one I hate.
No,
The first one is extreme cold exposure.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. And this is different to ice baths.
Yes.
So that's different. So that one actually activate the vagal nerve. It causes your heart rate to go up and that sort of thing. So they call it the mammalian diver's reflex, Steve.
No, jeez. Okay, mammalian, we're mammals.
Yeah.
Diver's reflex is when you go underwater,
Yeah, so you have to submerge your face. So to activate that vagal tone. So getting in an ice bath, people get into up to their neck.
Yep.
It's not going to activate the vagal tone. So you have to actually submerge your face. So you get a bucket or a basin with cold water in it, and then holding your breath is another way. So you're doing two things at once. So you're holding your breath, you're submerging your face. Usually they say up to your ears, so you get your ears in. And that's a really good way of stimulating that vagus nerve.
Do you remember a guy called Charles Darwin?
I do.
Okay.
I don't know him personally, but
it's only 150 years ago. He came up with the Darwin theory of evolution and talked about where all life species came from the sea. Okay?
Yeah.
So even mammals that breathe air came from the sea. Some of them even returned back to the sea, like whales and dolphins.
Yeah.
And you see them, they've got little leg bones in the whales. Have you ever seen that? So this diving reflex is the way that when you dive down to eat your giant squid, if you're a sperm whale, let's just make that up, then that slows down your sympathetic nervous system and increase your parasympathetic nervous system quickly because you need to conserve your energy when you're not breathing.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's an evolutionary response.
Yeah. So ice baths will increase your heart rate.
Yep.
This in submerging your head reduces your heart rate. And it's interesting, when I used to swim, and that's why I love swimming so much. One, I got super fit, but I used to feel amazing after a swim because it's resetting, it's activating that vagal tone, it's calming your whole system down. So you get out because you're submerging your head and you feel amazing. And this is why.
My brain rarely works better than after a swim. It's really an amazing I mean, when I get to pools, like, oh, God, gee, I've got to see this black line. And, you're looking around for any cute girls. There's none around, so it's a bit of a miserable thing. But so, go. But then when you get in and you start swimming, you get this real sensation of
just calm.
Yeah, and then you know what they recommend? You take cold showers and go outside in cold temperatures with minimal clothing.
Oh, well, you want to make sure your neighbours aren't around, I guess.
Yeah, I'm reading that word for word. So, yeah. And they also said you can ease yourself by simply sticking your face in an ice cold water.
Yeah, so stick your head in. And the colder the water, the faster the reaction.
Right. So the water will freeze at 0 degrees. So you can get water to 0. And if you want to get it cold, you put salt in there, but don't worry about it. Just put ice in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who I know my partner gets up and splashes cold water on his face in the morning, and that gets you awake because it's activating that parasympathetic focus, calm, and you feel great.
God, I get up and miserably complain about getting up early. It doesn't really help things, does it?
It doesn't help things, though.
Okay, so the other one, of course, this is a bit of an easier one. It's deep and slow breathing. So,
And how often do we talk about breathing exercises? I tell my patients all the time.
Yeah.
Breathing, deep breathing. Deep breathing is so good for activating that vagal nerve.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really cool.
Can I give you number 3?
Yeah.
And I'm going to act it out. Bright light said he's going to set my soul. He's going singing,
yeah,
or humming, or chanting, or gargling.
Yeah, gargling. So gargling is, but you got to. This sounds funny, but you got to do it really hard.
Yeah.
You got to really put force into the gargling or the singing or the humming to really get that vibration, and they say that works more for anyone that has sort of that throat issue, so the swallowing issue, hoarse voice, croaky voice, that sort of thing can work really well for that. So anything that's sort of vibrating the throat.
I mean, it's hard to believe this, but I was a professional muso. I still do gigs, but. And it's weird on stage, and I thought it was just like, because I'm not extroverty type person, So I'm not like out there. I don't, run around like an idiot. And I dress conservatively. I'm not out, but when I sing, you do feel really good. Like it's a really good feeling.
I can't believe you. I've never sung, so
it's like
not in front of anyone anyway.
You got to remember in the days of setting, you go there, you'd set up the music, and you'd be carrying the speakers in, you'd be plugging in. It takes 2-3 hours. All the lights you said, because I wasn't that good, so I didn't have roadies. I was the roadie.
Carry your own stuff.
Yeah. Like we wanted to be Jimmy Barnes now. They waddle on stage, sing, and piss off.
Yeah.
But you have to pack it up and get in the bus and so it was tough work. But when you're on stage for that 4 hours, we used to joke to say you got paid for setting up and packing up and played for free because it was easy.
Yeah, extra work,
that was the easy part of it. So look, it was really tough.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you felt kind of calm and once you started singing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It all started to. Yeah, you started to not stress as much.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Like and another one here that they've found is actually giving probiotics or microbiome treatments.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
The microbiome.
And that innovates so improving your gut. I don't know if that's something we need to talk about anymore. But one example was a study that they gave them bifidobacterium longum, which is a good probiotic, and they normalised anxiety-like behaviour in mice by acting through the vagus nerve. So they stressed the mice out, and they gave some of them the bifidobacterium, and those ones had less anxiety.
There you go.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
So like you may not be able to cure your stress. You may still be broke or super mortgage or dealing with car dealerships or something. Stress you out a bit, but this can help you.
Yeah, this is my theory on that. So if you're in a stress state and you've got these stresses around you, and like you said, you can't just avoid the stress. The stress is happening. If you can calm your nervous system and get out of that sympathetic dominance and get back into that parasympathetic calming, you're more clear-headed and you're more able to deal with the stress and rectify it.
Correct.
Rather than being stuck in it and not being able to do anything. So
that's
people say,
really good point.
The stress is there, I can't do anything about it. Well, you can, because if you physiologically, if you can get yourself centered and calm again, you'll have the more ability to actually fix the issue. So it's super important.
And it's quite amazing because, simple things like singing and probiotics and the fifth one, meditation.
Yeah, which people go, meditation.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? And people say, I can't meditate. And I'm like, get it. You can't meditate. If you start meditating, no one can sit down and meditate for 20 minutes, half an hour straight up. It takes work. It's like anything, but it can be a really helpful thing. So, yeah.
I mean, that's another good one too. And there's many papers on this. I'm just whipping through them. There's research on all of this stuff.
I like the last one you got there.
Oh.
Yeah, because I prescribe these all the time.
There's actually another.
Oh, there's more. Another page. Okay.
Another page. And that's why I know we're running out of time. So
yeah. Omega-3s.
Omega-3s.
I find that amazing because I prescribe these a lot. Yeah. Probably for most of my clients, I prescribe omega-3s.
And isn't it funny? We spoke to a young lass out in the office and she was taking 3 supplements.
Yeah.
Vitamin D.
Yeah.
Magnesium.
Yeah.
And omega-3s.
Yeah.
So quite remarkable. So, I could probably add to this unless it's on later.
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple here. So facial cold packs. The submersion, apparently facial cold packs can have the same effect. So if you don't want to stick your face in a basin, Valsalva maneuver, Steve.
Oh, tell us about that.
So the Valsalva maneuver is they do it like when you're clearing say you want to clear your ears. So you hold your breath, you pinch your nose, hold your breath, and you
blow out your nose.
And it can pop your ears. And the other thing is
I'll give you a demo. Oh,
that's
popped.
That's it. See, I can't do that.
Why can't you do that?
No, so I have an ear canal that's crooked.
It's
got a bend in it. So I can't dive because I can't equalise my ears.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. And so I can't do that either. Won't pop. So if I get a blocked ear, it'll be blocked for days.
My ears, I'm a bit deafer from that experience. it's just kind of a bit sort of.
Yeah.
But that's
so
the
that can do it. And also, okay, this is going to sound weird, but like you're having a poop. So if you squat down and then you bear down, that also activates the vagus nerve. So that's part of the Valsalva maneuver type thing as well. So you hold your breath.
Not doing that
no,
in the
don't
podcast.
Do that one. Don't do that one.
Jeez, whiz.
So that's a bit of a and here's another one that's a bit obscure. Yeah. Ocular pressure.
Oh.
So people, and I heard this somewhere else I was listening to. I don't know because I don't really do a lot of yoga, but they put like eye pillows on your face at the end of a yoga session.
I do. I've seen that.
When they do I don't know, I'm not a yoga person, the bit where they lay and relax at the end, it's got a name. Vinyasa. I don't know, sorry. Probably not it. I don't know. All the yoga people will know.
Yeah.
But they put a pillow and it's like just slight pressure. But I've got a little bit here. So ocular pressure. So it's it activates I'll read it. So it was first sort of noticed in 1908, the oculocardiac reflex.
Oh, my God.
Yes. Yeah,
this sounds awesome.
Yeah. So also known as I can't even pronounce this, Ashina reflex or vagal reflex.
Yep.
So it reduces your heart rate. So if you put pressure on your eyes, it actually reduces the heart rate. And they first discovered it when they were doing eye surgeries and they noticed their heart rate was dropping quite low.
Wow.
Yeah. So obviously.
So they thought they were dying?
They thought they were dying, yeah. So it induces bradycardia, which is low heart rate.
Low and bradycardia. Yeah, bradycardia is a slow heart rate.
Yeah, and in extreme cases it can cause cardiac arrest. So you don't want to be doing this like to this level. But a slight pressure. But think about this for a minute. This is why I love the human body. If you're super tired and super stressed, what do people do a lot of time? They rub their eyes, right? Yeah. And you're putting pressure and you're like, I just want to push in my eyes. And you just feel a bit calmer because it's actually activating the vagal tone and slowing down your heart rate.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's funny because pressure around the eyes is a symptom of when you get migraines and cluster headaches. But quite interesting, where I know this from, and I've only seen it really, is when women have facials. Yes. And after the facial, they lie with these
pillow things on their eyes. Yeah,
that's right.
Facials, yeah.
Have you ever had a facial?
No, I don't do girly things. I've never actually.
You don't do girly things?
I've never had a facial.
I don't do girly things either.
Yeah.
But I've seen it on TV.
Yeah.
You've never had a facial?
I've never ever had a facial, no. I've never been to a day spa.
Really?
I'd rather go to the gym or go outside. I don't know. I'm just not a girly girl.
I'd like to go to
I've had one massage and it didn't go well.
I don't know if we want to elaborate on that. But
I just don't. I had a, what was it? Not lymphatic. It was a trigger point or something.
Oh, you're pointing to your chest here. That's painful.
I actually got up halfway through and I said, I'm so sorry, you're great, but I can't do this. It was horrendous. So that was my own experience with a massage. I've never had another. No,
I mean, I'm a massage therapist. In naturopathy,
well, actually,
in my
I have
day.
to tell you, I had knots in my back here, and you got the knots out of up near my neck there. So
Yeah.
you went around, I think you were doing a day of shoulder massages around the office.
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
But I'm a qualified therapist and still registered as one and still, get health fund. But yeah, because, it's funny. We used to do ocular massage. I haven't done it for years.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, be careful. Don't be poking your eyes out. That can be dangerous. But just slight pressure apparently can be, can be a little bit.
Can I give you one of mine?
Yes.
Number 7?
Yeah.
You're going to love this. Exercise.
Oh, wow. There you go. It's a cure-all, isn't
Exercise, they recommend lifting heavy weights 1 to 4 times per week, high-intensity interval sprinting 1 to 2 times a week, and walk as much as 30 to 60 minutes a day. If you do all 3 things, but if you can, good, all more power to you. And that will help with your vagus nerve. Oh, many other things, of course, heart shit and diabetes shit and
else
cancer shit. But isn't that remarkable that good old exercise does that? So, we're starting to have a bit of a pattern here of good health, good supplements, good, ice bathing and exercise.
Yeah.
And number 8, you're not going to like.
What is it?
Massage.
Oh, no.
Massage stimulates vagal nerve.
There you go.
Again, the foot massages have been shown to increase vagal modulation and heart rate variability and decrease the, quote, fight or flight sympathetic response. Reference 29. So these are scientific. And so if my wife's listening to this, I love foot massage.
But you're the massage therapist, Steve. Do you give back massages?
Of course, every night. She puts her foot up, sit together, and she puts her foot up and I massage it.
Oh, there you go.
And then she swaps it around. And she says, I'm not doing yours.
Yeah, no, I don't do feet. I don't touch feet.
I love getting a foot massage, and I don't mind giving them because, it just has such a good response in people.
Yeah.
And we did a reflexology part where you do a little thumb thing, but it's really, the foot massage is very powerful.
So anyway, what we're trying to highlight here, Steve, is...
Well, I want to give you one more before we highlight.
Give you one more.
And yeah, you're going to love this.
Okay.
Your vagus nerve must be kicking ass at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it says socialising or laughing.
Oh, there you go. See, I should be super relaxing.
And isn't it funny? Like when I used to do a podcast with Jeff, we did a podcast called Laughter is Your Own Medicine. And I've done talks with Dr. Patch Adams.
Yes.
Who was, I suppose, is he famous?
Well,
there was a movie made about him
by Robin Williams.
Yeah, that's right.
Play him.
And, but he's quite a famous guy, very tall man too, like I'm 6 foot, but he towered over me. And he had long white hair, and one side was blue and one side was red.
Oh, really?
And someone asked him, why are you here? They said, because that starts a conversation.
Oh, wow.
And that's what he was all about. Laughter is medicine.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched the Patch Adams movie, but he's a certified medical doctor, and I've seen him talk a few times. The talk I gave with him was in Sydney about 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was difficult because I had to follow him. And it's like, how do you follow one of the best presenters in the world? Mine was shit compared to his talk.
Sure it was.
Because I was like, oh, yes, just study this. And he was just up there free living for hours.
Yeah.
Hours. It was captivating.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing talk. And he would talk about laughter as being a great medicine. And I ranked it at number 9, but this is again, study showing this.
Well, I mean, I probably shouldn't talk about certain, but some really quite serious diseases, cancers and things like that, they always advocate laughter, always in a lot of really chronic diseases because for this reason. And people poo-hoo a lot of these things, but on their own, laughter isn't going to cure anything, but you combine a lot of these things, look after yourself, work on stress management, activate your vagus nerve. All these little things really do add up to help. And if you have chronic conditions that you're really struggling to see any sort of improvement in, have a look at vagus nerve, exercises and things like that. I mean, I used to give handouts for vagus nerve exercises for a lot of my clients.
Yeah.
For that reason, because it's super important. And a lot of these things are really easy to do. You can just add them into your day.
Stick your face in a bucket of ice, pretty easy.
Yeah, you can take some deep breaths.
Yeah, you can meditate.
Gargle in the morning. You can
sing.
Yeah,
hum
exactly.
even.
Yeah.
Do your exercise. That's easy. Massage.
Yeah.
Socialise. Even if you're stressed, like everyone knows that even getting a massage when you're stressed just relaxes you.
Yeah.
When I get a massage, I almost fall asleep.
Yeah.
Just really relaxing.
Well, it's activating your vagus nerve. So, it's interesting.
So take some healthy gut stuff, whatever it is you're taking.
Yeah, look after your gut. And, as we said, if you're having a lot of gut issues, you could be having issues and there's nothing, you've had testing and nothing's showing up, it could be low vagal tone. So maybe have a look into that.
Can I give you one more disease that may get flagged a little bit? I'll talk about it carefully. The chronic long virus syndromes
Yes.
is associated with impaired vagal activity.
Yeah.
And this has only been published 2022. So, when you get post-viral syndrome,
Yeah.
that's basically what this paper is saying, that it's probably low vagal tone.
Yeah. That's actually super interesting because we all know long viral.
Yes.
Long viral issues. That people are just 2-3 years after viral infection are not improving.
No.
And they're starting to get chronic fatigue and all these other issues. And I believe a lot of it is because of low vagal tone, and they're just that it's again stuck. It's just stuck in that.
This paper's published in Viruses, and I'll read the title carefully.
Yes.
It says impaired vagal activity in long virus patients.
Yeah.
So I'll cover that up.
Yes.
But that's an interesting paper. So look that one up.
And that comes back to that long-term stuff. So, a trauma doesn't have to be an emotional trauma. So it could be, it's, people get serious viruses. I had a virus back in the virus times, that virus. And I was horrendously sick for 7-8 weeks.
And isn't that funny? Because when I got a virus, interesting virus, I was sick for never, because I tested positive, but I didn't stop. I just had to run on my own.
Yeah.
I went to the beach instead of going to the pool, so I didn't want to interact with people. But I didn't feel sick at all. So I was lucky.
Yeah, no, I had it quite badly. But yeah, interesting. I just find that the vagus nerve is involved in so much of this stuff, and we're sort of shown with the gut, the brain, all of that sort of thing, that connection. So looking at vagal tone, work on some vagus nerve exercises to improve your vagal tone could really be beneficial for your overall health. And if you are struggling, maybe it could be improving there if you've tried other things. Yeah.
And you could probably do out of these 9, you could probably do half of them every day.
Oh, easily.
Like slow breathing and meditation.
Yeah.
Omega-3s.
Yep.
Gut stuff.
Yeah. Some
singing.
Yeah.
Massage, exercise, laughing.
Yep.
These is real simple stuff.
Yeah.
And all peer-reviewed.
Yep.
Nice, hey?
Yeah.
Anything else on vagus nerve you want to talk about?
Oh, I could go on for hours.
It's okay, good, but...
Yeah, it's lunchtime now.
Sort of running out of time. Now we've got to get our vagus nerve working to digest.
That's
it's got to
right.
be afferent.
That's right. Efferent. Yep.
Efferent and afferent. God, I remember that's from 1995 when I was learning about nerves. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got time for.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next week.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.
So, we've gone over gut stuff so many times in the past, and it is super, super expensive.
Yes.
It's not expensive, but it's also important. It might be expensive. It depends.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Testing the gut's expensive.
Yeah, it is, but important.
Okay.
So when I've been and it's been when I've been very stressed, stop it, Steve. We're gonna.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. What are you laughing at?
I can see your face. So have that gag reflex.
I didn't say anything. I didn't.
That was all me. That was all me. And that.
I'm going. Don't look at Nicole.
As I saw
don't look at Nicole.
I blame her for that. When I looked at him, he was laughing. Yeah.
Just wondering.
Maybe we'll just skip over that one. Straight face.
What other symptoms are there, Nick?
So,
sorry. My God. Oh, no, I need a tissue.
Cut that bit out too.
Don't get the giggles in.
I get the giggles. But maybe we cut that out.
Carotid slap. Foot massage. What did you say? Fat massage? We can't talk about massaging fats on this podcast.
The last 2 days have been...
There's going to be now a red mark against our name.
I don't know. Lack of sleep really does things to you, doesn't it?